right, so it's official. President Trump has ordered National Guard troops to Los Angeles. The governor and the mayor, they're freaking out. And mainstream media is already spinning this story, which we're going to debunk the lies in this video. I'm going to show you what both sides are saying and then give you my bottom line. Let's start here.
In a dramatic escalation overnight, President Trump deployed the National Guard to quash ongoing protests in Southern California. His decision to send 2,000 troops to Los Angeles followed 2 days of protests against sweeping federal immigration raids in the area. Now, hundreds of protesters clashed with local police and federal immigration agents as law enforcement used tear gas and flashbang grenades to disperse the crowds, some of whom vandalized buildings and threw objects.
The big announcement that came last night was President Trump ordered the National Guard to be deployed in Los Angeles, 2,000 troops to be exact. They are supposed to support the officials on the ground to make sure things do not escalate any further. So it is an act of de-escalation. Now, in this video, you're going to see how mainstream media is already trying to weaponize the facts in a way to make people believe that President Trump is escalating things and that the protests are just misunderstood because they were peaceful. Let me show you my first example. Pay attention to this congresswoman out of California. Take a listen.
We agree that if you're being violent, you should be arrested. You should be prosecuted. There is no disagreement on that. I think that's an effort that we can all say. But this is not what's happening. We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting. And we know that California law enforcement, local law enforcement, they're there to protect the public. They're there to protect and have public safety. And that's what they're there to do. Now, when people turn on law enforcement is when you get that response.
If they were peaceful, then President Trump wouldn't have to order the National Guard in. And the reason why he's doing it is because California leadership is failing to do it. And also local law enforcement on the ground, their hands are tied. Ultimately, the Los Angeles mayor, the sheriff, they're the ones who are making the calls here. And they do not want to show that they are in agreement or in alignment or even supporting ICE in any way. And what's also interesting is this congresswoman out of California, she contradicted herself multiple times. If you look on the screen, what do you see? Individuals on their motorcycle waving the Mexico flag while vehicles burn. I don't see how that's peaceful exactly. Now, let me show you an example. Here is CNN doing what they do best, spinning the story. Take a listen.
They were literally out there protesting, carrying a foreign flag. That is absolutely insane. I mean, they're not just peaceful protesters. Well, these are illegals. These are exactly why the president is trying to secure our border.
All right. Well, carrying a flag is not illegal, as you know. And I just want to be clear.
I just want to be flag while you're attacking law enforcement. It's pretty bad.
That's a different question. But I just want to just state for the record that what did happen in 1992 was so different from what we're seeing now. I mean, that was a real riot that went all across the city of Los Angeles after a verdict in the Rodney King case. This is a situation where the LA County Police,
Dana,
it's not good, but they're saying that they have it under control, and the president is sending national troops, federal troops, in a way that
we can look at this and we can obviously
time.
see that it is not under control. It's not under control. You and I both can see that. It's not under control. And a riot is a riot. They're throwing all types of objects at law enforcement, and the president is absolutely right. I can't say this enough. This is why the American people elected President Trump, because we are moving in the right direction.
Okay, well, number one, as you guys can tell, mainstream media is going to continue to leave out certain details, right? Details that would include that there were protesters that did turn violent. There were protesters that tried to obstruct ICE officials from doing their job. And there's also individuals that I just showed you earlier that are setting things on fire, vandalizing, and looting. So I don't see what's under control about that exactly. And quite frankly, if things were under control, we wouldn't be talking about flashbangs, tear gas, FBI agents, and National Guard troops. Now, the governor did fire back at this announcement. Trump is sending 2,000 National Guard troops into LA County, not to meet an unmet need, but to manufacture a crisis. Now, obviously, the correction there is President Trump is responding to a crisis that you are failing to do, Governor. He's hoping for chaos so he could justify more crackdowns, more fear, more control. Now, here's where I do agree with them. Stay calm. never use violence, stay peaceful. And unfortunately, people on the ground are not getting that message from the governor, because here's one protester proudly celebrating that they are resisting ICE. Take a listen.
It is a beautiful day of resistance. And for every single minute that we were here resisting against the Border Patrol, that was time that they were not out deporting people in our community. They could not kidnap people in our community today because the people came out to resist.
I think it's very disturbing. You know, you're separating people from their kids, family, and whatnot. Younger kids don't understand what's going on, seeing this going on, so it's very disturbing.
All right, so there you go. Protesters celebrating the fact that they're resisting ICE. So I guess for Gavin Newsom, he might want to rethink his statements. So what else is mainstream media up to? First, they're saying that President Trump is escalating this. Now they're saying that President Trump is purposely looking to use military action against American citizens. Of course, Tom Homan pushed back on that idea. Take a listen.
What is the federal military mission in Los
This is not a
Angeles?
military mission. The president's bringing National Guard here to protect the public and protect officers. Where the officers have been attacked, where the officers injured. So he's sending here as a force multiplier for law enforcement here, but not just to protect the law enforcement, to protect the general public. If Democratic leaders want to turn their back on public safety, they can. President Trump's not going to.
You said it's not a military mission, but isn't that what Title 10 is, or am I misunderstanding something?
They're here for a law enforcement mission to protect the public and protect law enforcement. That's what it is.
That's exactly what the mission is, and exactly what the mayor and the governor should have been up to. But you know what they're doing? They're playing politics. That's why President Trump responded on Truth Social by saying this: if Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles can't do their jobs, which everyone knows they can't, then the federal government will step in and solve the problem, rioters and looters, the way it should be solved. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is something that the LA mayor could have nipped in the butt. She could have ordered the LAPD and the sheriff's department to work hand in hand to just go ahead and shut this down before it even escalates. But they're not going to do it. You know why? Because they hate President Trump that much. They'd rather see their city burn than to give him a win here. Now, here's what Secretary Kristi Noem had to say. Take a listen.
That is what ICE is doing every day as they're out on our streets and working to go after bad criminals and people that have perpetuated violence on these communities. The gang members we have picked up in LA because of their hard work are horrible people. Assault, drug trafficking, human trafficking. They are now off of those streets and they are safer because these ICE operations are ongoing. Unfortunately, we've seen some violent protests happen, and that's why these National Guard soldiers are being utilized to help with some security in some areas.
So a lot of people don't understand this is exactly one of the missions of the National Guard. When there is a riot that is getting out of control and local law enforcement needs support, National Guard will come in. Now, the mayor said this morning: President Trump deployed the National Guard into Los Angeles. Deploying federalized troops on the heels of these raids is a chaotic escalation. The fear people are feeling in our city right now is very real. It's felt in our communities and within our families, and it puts our neighborhoods at risk. This is the last thing our city needs, and I urge protesters to remain peaceful. I've been in touch this morning with immigrant right leaders as well as local law enforcement officials. Los Angeles will always stand with everyone who calls our city home. So my question for the mayor is, are you also standing with people who are part of the cartel who call Los Angeles home? Are you standing with the people who are trafficking children and women? Are you standing with the people who are committing heinous crimes? Because that's exactly what that sounds like. Now, before I show you what Maxine Waters had to say, because she was making a fool of herself, she's there on the ground in front of the National Guard troops. Let's first hear from today's sponsor. All right, so I don't know if you guys know this about me or not, but I used to have a particular bad habit when I was serving in the military. Now, thankfully, I was able to kick this bad habit cold turkey, but I know most people are not that lucky. That's why I'm proud to partner with today's sponsor, Fume. Fume is a smokeless, careless, non-nicotine fidget device that gives you the oral sensation of vaping, but without the negative effects. And it's a new wellness habit to replace your bad habit. Listen to this. Fume customers have said it helps them calm down. And as a supporter of Fume myself, I could say the cool mint flavor is the perfect pick-me-up when I need it the most. So try Fume today. And when you buy their Journey Starter Pack, they will give you a free Fume topper for added fidget fun. All you have to do is hit the link in the description below or go to tryfume.com/Devoria or scan the QR code on the screen to kick your bad habit with Fume today.
to stop here where the guns are. I want you all to take pictures of these guns and let people know that they're in our city with guns, and I'm sure they have orders to shoot and kill. I don't know, but otherwise they wouldn't have guns.
One question, Representative Ms. Waters, if there's one statement or a message that you can send to Donald Trump, what is that message here today?
My message to Donald Trump is you are a cruel human being, and that you are using the poorest people in the land, the most vulnerable people in the land, to promote your politics. You are wrong. We know what this is all about. We have people who are immigrants here who are trying to seek a better living, who have come from places where they have experienced this kind of thing that he's doing here today.
Yeah, so let's just address a few things that I think this congresswoman is failing to realize or is failing to mention. And maybe you don't know this yourself. When you hear the word National Guard, you know what's so interesting about that? The soldiers who are carrying those rifles, they're from that area. I bet some of them live right down the street where they're standing. That's what National Guard is. You serve in the United States Army, but you serve locally close to where you're from. And you do it 1 week in a month. Now, of course, they're not going to mention any of that because they want to make it sound as if these troops came from DC or somewhere and they were flown in. I mean, these people are a joke.
The reality is we see peaceful protests launching in Los Angeles. And again, any violence against police officers should not be accepted. Local authorities can handle that. But remember, a lot of these peaceful protests are being generated because the President of the United States is sowing chaos and confusion by arresting people who are showing up for their immigration hearings.
Okay, well, let's just correct something for the record. Local law enforcement, they're not doing anything about these individuals assaulting or obstructing ICE officials from doing their job. They're not. That's why we saw the statements from yesterday where they're basically trying to stay out of it. So, Cory Booker, you got that wrong. Let's just circle back on something that Maxine Waters said as well, because I think this is at the heart of the issue. There's a part of this country that believes it does not matter if you cross the border illegally. It does not matter if you have committed crimes. If you're here, you should be able to become an American citizen, full stop. I think I've said that yesterday as well. The problem, though, is that means there's no law and order. It's just a free-for-all. And that's the part that Democrats are missing here. If you don't establish law and order, sooner or later, American citizens are going to get hurt. That's just the way that it works. They will get hurt financially. They will get hurt physically. They will get hurt economically. It's just the way that it works. And to ignore it shows that, one, you're not looking at the facts, and two, you lack discernment, and three, you hate Donald Trump so much, you're willing to ignore the cold, hard truth. Majority of America voted for this. Now, let's debunk his lies, and including hers, by showing you a few clips from what peaceful protest looks like to them. Take a look. Yeah, so that's a great example of what peaceful protesting looks like for Democrats and mainstream media. Now, listen, I think one of the cornerstones of our show and why we do what we do every single day is because there's one thing that the left continues to do, and I always push back on it, and that is their hatred for President Trump blinds them from reporting on these stories in a fair manner. They just can't do it whatsoever. And then when you combine that with Democrats, who they can't even be bipartisan on anything because that means President Trump will win. They can't do that either. I mean, I think at a certain point, they would rather LA go up in flames. They'd rather the party go up in flames in order to make sure that they did not work with President Trump on anything. That's what we're dealing with here. That's why I like showing you what both sides are saying. This does not mean President Trump is perfect or his administration is perfect, but his administration is not what the mainstream media wants you to believe it is. Now, here is Speaker Johnson reacting to the news this morning. Take a listen.
Do you have any problem or any concerns about the president sending in the National Guard to a place where local authorities say that they're not needed and could be harmful?
I have no concern about that at all. I think the president did exactly what he needed to do. These are federal laws. We have to maintain the rule of law, and that is not what is happening. And Gavin Newsom has shown an inability or an unwillingness to do what is necessary there. So the president stepped in. That's real leadership, and he has the authority and the responsibility to do it.
Secretary Hegseth said that active duty Marines there at Camp Pendleton, there by San Diego, are on high alert and could be mobilized. Could we really see active duty Marines on the streets of Los Angeles?
You know, one of our core principles is maintaining peace through strength. We do that on foreign affairs and domestic affairs as well. I don't think that's heavy-handed. I think that's an important signal.
You don't think sending the Marines into the streets of an American city is heavy-handed?
We have to be prepared to do what is necessary, and I think the notice that might happen might have the deterrent effect.
Okay, so at this point, I think it's abundantly clear what both sides think about this particular issue as things continue to escalate in LA, and hopefully with the deployment of National Guard troops, things can de-escalate. Now, here's my personal opinion about the matter. If I was in front of someone who was arguing with me and saying, Devori, why don't they just leave these people alone? They don't have to do all this. They don't have to go into neighborhoods. Well, let me ask you a question. How would you feel if someone just started coming up in your home, eating your food, drinking your water, using your electricity, and not paying any bills whatsoever? What about if someone came into your home, started living in one of the rooms, and then raped your wife? Then what? I bet you'd be losing your mind because there is no law and order in your house. You're just letting people in willy-nilly. That's exactly what happened to this country over the past 4 years. Now, I'm not suggesting that every single person who came across a border is committing crimes and raping and murdering people. What I am saying is there is a good amount of people who are doing that, and that's what the Trump administration is focused on, getting those people out of our country. The smart thing to do is to allow them to do their job and let them get it over with. But the more you resist, the more it's going to happen. You ever heard of this quote? Force negates. The more you try to control something, the less control you have. I think this is the classical mistake that people are making here. Let the Trump administration do what they think they should be doing. And if you have a problem with it, take it to the courts. I think it's that simple. And that's my bottom line opinion on the matter. So let's hear from you guys in the comment section below. What do you think about this entire story, especially the deployment of the National Guard troops, and then the way that the mainstream media is spinning it? Let me know what you think about all that in the comment section below. All right, so in our next video, we explain exactly how we got here in case you haven't been paying attention to this story, what sparked it, and what actually happened yesterday, which I think is actually bigger news. If you want to check out that video, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.